This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And I'm your other co-host. My name is Cameron. I'm a senior studying computer science and business administration at the Viterbi School.
Cameron, I'm out of breath again. I need to stop scheduling. Well, that's the thing is I don't schedule them, but I need to stop doing workouts like right before we record. And I was assuming like 10 minutes in between I would catch my breath, but I'm obviously not. So I'm sorry. I'm pretending to be okay, but I'm not. I'm out of breath. So are you, what's your fitness regime like these days? Are you working out on the regular? What's your thing?
Yeah, so I took advantage of like a super easy, really light schedule second semester senior year, which will never happen until like towards the end of senior year when you get a little bit of a nice reprieve. I recently reworked my gym routine. So originally I kind of broke it up, and so I try to go 4 days a week. So I try to go Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, since I don't have class on those days, and I can do like 11 a.m. kind of like no one's in the gym.
Yeah.
And so originally I tried to do like muscle groups, but then people told me you should do push and pull. So I tried to do push, pull, legs, and abs.
Okay. Cool.
So it's not too terrible. Like most of the time, if I miss a week, I miss the abs because like that's just a whole, core strength is cool, but push, pull, and like never skip leg day. Legs the most important. You only can go 1 day a week. You have to do legs. It helps your knees good. Everyone's like, oh, why are people who are older, have knee issues? I'm like, if you would have worked out your legs when you were 20, you would have knee problems when you were 40.
Totally. Agreed. Well, so what, given all that important conversation, what is this week's episode all about?
Yeah, so this week I'm talking with Jordan. She's a current CS major at USC, and she's a part of CAIS++. So USC has this thing called CAIS. It is the Center for AI and Society. This is actually a research lab here at USC. It's really big, has a variety of components into it, but CAIS++ is the Center for AI and Society student branch. And so I get a chance to talk with her about exactly what CAIS++ is, what they do, some of the projects and whatnot, just how it's like some really good parallels to, real world AI stuff, especially as we've been seeing in the news with like ChatGPT and things like that. And then the connection to the actual CAIS research lab. So really cool just to hear about this club, which kind of gets everyone like AI is the buzzword. So we get to talk about, well, here's a club where you get to actually do things related to that buzzword.
Totally. And I guess people would know because they've already looked at the title before they listen to this, but CAIS is an acronym, CAIS. Center for Artificial Intelligence and Society. So every time we say CAIS, we're actually referring to CAIS. So it is an acronym. All sorts of great stuff related to research in artificial intelligence. The student group does great stuff. And again, about making some sort of net positive impact on society. So let's get out of the way and get straight into CAIS++.
Alrighty, so welcome in, Jordan. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast, especially with midterms and everything going. How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm sure everyone is busy since it's the week before spring break.
Exactly. Yeah, when this is up, we'll be literally in spring break, like that Sunday, and then that Monday through Friday is spring break. So we're doing pretty good. Well, Jordan, so why don't you just go ahead and for the listeners out there, man, just give us a little intro about who you are.
Yeah, so hello, I'm Jordan. I am a junior studying computer science. Originally, I'm from Seattle, Washington. Well, not quite in Seattle, Washington, but in the area surrounding Seattle. But yeah, I guess one of the biggest things I've done on campus and the thing I'm most involved in is I am the co-president of CAIS++, which is the Undergraduate Artificial Intelligence Society. And really, I enjoy leading CAIS++, I guess, because I am interested in artificial intelligence research, but not just AI research, but applying AI to other fields. Specifically, I'm very involved in my genetics research. And so leading something like CAIS++ has really helped me in my own personal research.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Also, I will say, give yourself credit. Seattle's pretty cool. I was just up there this summer, so I feel like Seattle's nice. And the areas around it too, because I didn't live in Seattle proper either, but got a nice area. But so yeah, you said you were the president of CAIS and whatnot. But before we get to that, I was just curious, what kind of like sparked your interest as a computer science major in like AI? You know, it's this big buzzword we hear, but why did you find it interesting to actually want to study?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. So I came into USC as a biomedical engineering major. And so the reason why I had done biomedical engineering was just because my dad really wanted me to get engineering major and I really like biology. So I went in as a BME major and I like in my own research and like working with researchers, we use a lot of artificial intelligence tools. So a lot of like unsupervised learning methods, like dimensionality reduction, we used a lot just to classify like cell types. And so I was like, oh, I guess I should learn more about how these AI tools work. So as a freshman, I was like, okay, I'll apply to the artificial intelligence like club. And like, I thought that would be a really great way for me to like learn how those things work. So I applied. And it turns out like not only was I super interested in AI, I was also interested in computer science, which previously I didn't really know I was interested in because I kind of applied to like CAIS++ on a whim. So yeah, I ended up getting into it through there. And the really cool thing about CAIS++ is there is a open source curriculum in the fall. So theoretically, anyone can learn about AI, can learn about programming just in the fall. So I guess like that was how I learned about AI was actually through CAIS++.
Wow, very cool. And then you said you ended up switching your major, which is also pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was like kind of flirting with the idea of going into CS just because when I was a freshman, I was online. So for me to like stay involved in research, I had to learn how to code. So like I like knew how to code a little bit. That was actually because of the pandemic. I learned how to code because I couldn't work in the lab. And so like, yeah, so I guess CAIS++ plus the pandemic kind of convinced me to switch from BME to CS.
Yeah, I feel like I was also a pandemic CS switcher too. So I feel like, I don't know, I think the pandemic kind of told everyone, why don't we just sit at our houses all day and code and, you know, change the world or something. So I definitely feel that with you. But yeah, so you said, let's just kind of jump into it. So for those out there, we've been talking about CAIS, like we've been kind of mentioning it. I'm probably sure, like, since we'll talk about this in the intro as well, but what is CAIS? What is CAIS++? What is this word that we keep on talking about? Like, is it CASE? Like, what is it?
Yeah. So CAIS++, which stands for the Center for Artificial Intelligence in Society student branch, is essentially the undergraduate branch of the larger artificial intelligence like research group known as CAIS, which is just like the Center for Artificial Intelligence in Society. So that branch is like an actual research center. So a lot of computer science professors actually are part of CAIS. I guess most notably, the organization is led by someone named Bishra Dilkina. She teaches a couple classes. I know like last year she taught the Intro to Artificial Intelligence class. And she also just teaches undergraduate and graduate courses as well. But really like CAIS is formed of, I would say like three main components. The first component is what I've already mentioned. It's the open source AI curriculum. It's a curriculum that has just kind of been like made by CAIS++ members over the years. And really it just walks like the new cohort through the basics of AI, specifically related to deep learning, because that's kind of, there's a lot of like open source tools to like apply deep learning into different fields. And then the second like big like main component of CAIS++ is the project focus. So every single semester we end up having these projects where we apply deep learning principles and just general artificial intelligence principles to social good problems. So in my very first CAIS++ project was predicting the pandemic risk factors of influenza A. So what we do is we took like the influenza A sequences, perturb mutations in it, and see if like this now like influenza, like mutated influenza A can affect humans. So projects like that. We've also collaborated with like different organizations in the past. But yeah, so that really like forms up the heart of CAIS++ is like this project centers. A lot of the times we end up these projects we present, and we also like tend to collaborate with professors just because us as CS students don't know that much about social good or like the causes. We just know about like deep learning and we want to apply it to a greater social good. And then the third component, just to kind of like sum it up, is we try our best to foster a research community. Pretty much everyone in our club is interested in research, not necessarily just AI, because like I said, I'm like a geneticist. I like am interested in genetics. I'm not necessarily an AI researcher. But a lot of people in our club are either interested in AI, they're interested in or in applying AI. And so we really try to foster that research community. We like encourage people to publish papers, to attend conferences, to attend seminars. And so that's what I would say are like third big components. So just to sum it up, we have our curriculum, we have our projects, and we have our AI community. Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. And I have seen like the transitions to the open curriculum, which is pretty cool. And yes, also like you mentioned, Bisha Dokina, I actually took her intro to AI class. A brilliant woman. She's like, I just like how like you're just this inside of the same human brain that I have, like just like miles of intelligence. I'm like, she's basically like she's not an Einstein, she's her own Einstein. Like we're gonna say like, oh, like you want to be like Einstein would be like Dokina. So very cool. Quick side note for the uninitiated, you mentioned deep learning. Quickly, like what is deep learning? Just for those out there who've heard the buzzword.
Yes. Okay. So I'll break it down for you because you've probably heard like AI, you've heard machine learning, you've heard deep learning. So how it works is AI is like an umbrella term of like programs that mimic human intelligence. So really, like for anyone that knows CS, that could just be like for loops, like condition based. It's be really simple. And so then machine learning, which is a subset of AI, is data driven approaches. So a lot of the times it's algorithms that are learning based off the data. And so then in a subset of that just I guess for people that know a little bit about it, like you could consider like there could be arguments made that linear regression or any sort of regression tools are part of machine learning. So it could be as simple as that, and it can get as complicated as something like deep learning. Whereas deep learning, you are using like say it's like on the basis of using like neural networks, which are kind of like algorithms that can learn non-linear or non like polynomial relationships between like data and like the source. So for example, like the really popular, I guess like deep learning thing that's happening, like you could like say like image classification. So given two images, is it a cat or a dog? That's a very canonical like deep learning problem where like machine learning or general AI might not be able to do it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's very cool. Like I'm also trying to think of like what everyone else might know because I know a lot of those things. Like I've heard of like not as much as you, and like I certainly don't know like really can tell everything, but I at least know enough about them to like hold a decent conversation. But I know high school me listening to this would probably be like, I don't quite know. Like I've heard of all these buzzwords like deep learning, AI, whatnot. So but that feel like that's pretty good. Not to mention I have heard the joke that like whenever a company says using our AI powered tool, they just mean a linear regression, which is the same thing you can do in Excel. Which is kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, AI is not really, I do want to say like a lot of people think of AI and they think of like Ex Machina or like iRobot or think like robots becoming humans. But like in reality, AI is just like a bunch of math and algorithms that just tell us things. But a lot of the times it's not as like, I guess, fancy as what it would seem in the movies.
Very cool. Very cool. So I guess like I want to talk about so I'm just kind of go through like you mentioned like the three parts of CAIS. So I just kind of go through there. So you mentioned the curriculum. Kind of some insight, like what's taught in the curriculum, like who creates it? Is it like you guys as professor, like kind of how does that whole curriculum situation work?
Yeah. So the curriculum for CAIS is kind of like it was created by like the club founders just based off of their own knowledge. And then it's just been developed over time. So essentially like every single summer, club leadership and like the curriculum leads, like the people that teach curriculum will get together and just update the materials. Because the field of like deep learning is moving really fast, you just want to make sure that the materials that we're teaching our club mates are like, I guess, the most recent and most modern. And really like, I guess for like topics that we go through, we start with like really basic, like this is what classification is and like, just very like high level concepts. And then we'll like progress through like different like flavors of neural networks. So we might go like high level concepts, talk about neural networks, talk about like the basics of neural networks, like the perceptrons, which are basically kind of like the fundamental building blocks of what deep learning is. And then we'll go through like, we'll get bigger and like go through the different flavors. So we go over generative adversarial networks. We go through like CNNs, like convolutional neural networks. We go through all those things. And at the end, it accumulates in like a 2 to 3 week deep learning applied to social good project. Yeah. Does that answer your question? It's kind of like hard to broaden this.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. That's like definitely a good overview of like who, the curriculum, like what it does. Since like I can imagine that like the curriculum, when someone says curriculum, it kind of sounds like a class. And I guess in many ways it is, but at the same time, like you do have to learn. Like it's very different from like some design teams, for example. Like when I was on the formula design team, like we all kind of know in essence like a little bit about physics and little things. Like we have to learn how to like use the software or how to like weld the car, how to like test in the dynamometer and rig it up. But like that's like not very important to kind of like do this. But like for something like this, it's like a whole different way of thinking, really. Where, like you wouldn't quite know how to like I wouldn't know how to set any of those things up. So that makes a lot of sense. you mentioned that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I guess for our listeners, just to like contextualize this, we do weekly meetings, and normally it's in the evenings. So our members will come at like 8 p.m. to learn about like CS. So it's very much so like we sit down in the classroom, we go through slides, and then we work through like these things called notebooks, which is like I guess you could think of them as like coding worksheets. So yeah, it's very much so more like class like than perhaps other build teams.
Yeah, and I think that's a good distinction too. Just because like sometimes like the classroom environment can be nice, and I know like a lot of times people kind of say like, "Oh, I don't want it to be just like school." And while I get that, like the thing about school is like there's pressure to like get an A or like get a good grade or like like get a passing grade. Whereas like I think because like if case you want to like obviously like pass the assignments, I'm assuming, but like or the assignments just whatever you're doing, but like the goal is to understand the content. So like it doesn't really matter so much. Oh, I need to like I just want to get the concepts in, and sometimes you might not do that always in school. Like sometimes like oh like I'm trying to study for the test. And it's like, well, there's no test. The test is like building the thing. So you might want to probably get a better understanding of the topics you're using. Before I was going to say, I wanted to ask about, you mentioned the curriculum. So who is teaching it? Is it you guys, the students, right?
Yeah. So there are these people called curriculum leads. So it's really combined with like club leadership, so people on e-board or the executive board, so like people like me. And like just members that are really passionate, that have gone through the curriculum and are just passionate about teaching. There's actually quite a few of those, just like people that just want to teach. And I guess the advantage of being, say, what we call them curriculum leads, is that you end up learning the material a lot deeper. Like having to sit down and explain it, really just like reinforces what you learned.
I like that a lot. As someone who would eventually maybe want to be a teacher and also like understand, so like professors are good and whatnot, but sometimes having a student would just make more sense because like some of the professors, they've been like, it's been 10 years since they did undergrad. And like, I don't quite remember exactly what I was doing 10 years ago. Like maybe like we were solving fractions or something. And it's like, yeah, fractions, this is really easy. Why can't you get this? And it's like a professor might think the same way, but a college student who like just learned about AI, like maybe like a year and a half ago and gets it, they're probably going to explain it to you a lot better than like the professor. Like they're like, they'll just, it'll be in a different way where like they'll maybe use an analogy or something. So I feel like that's definitely like really cool that the students have it. Would you ever be a curriculum lead?
I have been a curriculum lead.
Really? How was it? How'd you like it?
It was good. I feel like I kind of felt like a professor in that I was really trying hard to bring energy at like 8 p.m. after like a long day. So it's like it's a bit of an ask to like ask people to sit down and then like listen to like a 90-minute slideshow and then do like a coding assignment. But I think I tried my best. Also, Cameron, I didn't know you wanted to be a teacher.
Like in the long term, like I think like once I'm probably done being like an engineer and stuff like that and like doing whatever, I feel like, if I'm like, oh, I'm kind of bored, like I would, I'd be like, oh, like if I have enough degree, like I'll adjunct at a college or something, teach the kids.
Yeah, I could see that for you. I
Yeah.
don't know if teaching is in my future, even though I have been a curriculum lead.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. You get some experience to do it. It's like pretty cool too, because you like, it's a more of a, you get to articulate it, which is definitely like, you need the knowledge of it and you need like the depth and the engineering knowledge, but you got to talk about it and kind of like get to explain it, or like someone's like, I don't really quite get that. Like, so it's like a public speaking thing, a soft skills, personal skills thing. So it's kind of a nice, a nice little break from the equations and everything.
Yeah. I guess I liked it, but I was also, I guess, happy to do more project work, I think. I think that's where my heart lies, is the projects bit.
Makes sense. So speaking of that, that's actually the exact next thing I want to talk about. So the projects, because you're learning the curriculum to eventually build the project. So how are projects picked? What does that working on that look like? Give me the vivid picture and breakdown.
Yes. So I guess for projects, I can break it down a little bit further. There's kind of like, I would say 2 types of projects. There's the guided projects, which are projects like meant for people coming out of curriculum. So maybe you don't have a lot of experience. A lot of the times they're like underclassmen, so freshmen and sophomores. And we essentially tailor those projects so that they can be completable in a semester. So I would say that. And then we also have like external projects. So these are projects that are oftentimes research projects. And I guess the distinguishment for our listeners, is like the research projects are normally asking a question. So if going back to my influenza A example, it's like can we predict pandemic risk factors using neural networks or something like that, or along the lines of that. It's like there's intent to like research something instead of like produce something. So like, for example, produce a chatbot. Like producing a chatbot, I would not like if you're just trying to produce it, I wouldn't necessarily like put that in the research category. So a lot of the times these projects are novel, and most of the times they are in collaboration either with an external organization or they are in collaboration with a professor. So professors either that are computer science professors or professors that are outside of computer science.
Very cool, very cool. And so from that, so like that's how I'm guessing that's how the projects like get put in. So like maybe like for like I'm guessing the project stuff happens in the spring, right?
Yeah, so we actually have projects in the fall and the spring. There's less projects in the fall just because it's like there's like we have the curriculum. A lot of people like tend to take the fall off and focus in the spring. And there's just more in the spring because a lot of people coming out of curriculum want to do a project.
I see. And so that's when like the external organization or the researchers contact you like with a project and help and like ask for undergrads.
Yeah. We send out a call for I guess professors. For the fall, it's like at the beginning of summer. And then for the spring, normally we don't ask for professors, but we would do the call sometime midway through the fall semester. So we do it a lot of the time, like ahead of time to get professors to see if they're interested.
Very cool. And so like tell me about like I'm guessing you've done a couple of projects, like any highlights, any particular ones you really enjoyed?
Yeah, so I talked about the Influenza A project, and I guess I can talk about the project that I'm doing most recently. So this project, I guess we are essentially using wearable devices, so devices, things like your Apple Watch or Fitbit, to produce like chronic stress in medical residents. So we ended up using a data set produced by another USC professor, and that essentially they like tracked like the Keck School of Medicine residents and surveyed them a lot. And we decided, hey, using this data, we can see if we can predict chronic stress. Chronic stress, for those of you who like don't know, is a huge deal in healthcare. Physician burnout is at a all-time high. We don't want our physicians to be burned out. We want them to be happy because we want them to give us like the most like high quality care. And so these like devices, like wearable devices, are a great way to monitor things like chronic stress because a lot of the times it's very difficult to survey such individuals because they're often working really hard, trying to provide care, working long hours. Of course, like surveying will be the most accurate option. So we decided to use wearable devices. So this project, I guess, uses a USC data set and is also advised by a USC professor. My project is being advised by Luis Garcia, who is a like relatively new faculty, but he does a lot of work in like the intersection between the Internet of Things, so things like wearable devices and artificial intelligence.
Awesome. Very cool. That actually seemed like really cool projects. I'm glad that like, because sometimes you think of like research or like a professor doing it, but they actually are like asking really interesting questions and like wanting to do cool things.
Yeah, and Luis was good because like we kind of knew we wanted to do something with wearable devices because that's his expertise, but he also like let us like direct the research question. So he gave us suggestions and feedback, and we really just came to this conclusion of like what kind of research question we would like to do.
That's nice, especially that you're able to get a little more control over it. I know like I had looked at CAIS's website. I remember like when I was like a freshman, I think I was sophomore or something. I was like, oh, let me look at AI. Wasn't sure if I want to do AI. I still don't know actually, but you don't need to know that early on. Like I'm about to graduate and I still don't know. But it was like one project and it was from like 2018. So like before I was here, definitely before anyone else's time. But it was like this like AI and like the stock market or something. Cause they were like, yeah, there's like some trends to show that even though people think it's random, like it low key isn't. And like using like models of like I don't know the terminology. Basically, they're like, can we predict like performance indicators and other thing like based on like market data and stuff like this is like now like a whole finance podcast thing. But like it was really interesting. And like I just like and I started like reading about it, I was like, wow, like algorithmic trading was a whole thing. And like I went down the rabbit hole of that. But it was cool to see that like it's a project right there was, the intersection of like a bunch of different things. Got some tech and then like some finance people. I'm like, finance, coding, like, what are you guys doing over here? Go back to your Marshall School of Business. But here they were like working with the CS professor. So I thought that was really cool. Like, man, I want to do something like that. So I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah. I actually like want to point out that I don't think we've done finance projects like at least in my time, but I know there's a lot of other like USC organizations that are examining like, I guess, predictive models. So using things like artificial intelligence to predict, I guess, stocks. I'm not very like literate about the stock market, but I know it is a thing that people are doing like at USC, just not in CAIS++ at the moment.
Yeah, because there's a there's like some club, and like I don't know if it's like appointed like Marshall or Viterbi. I think it's Viterbi based on it, but it's called like Quant SC. Like not trying to steal the spotlight from Case, but like it's new. They just founded it, and like they're because like quantitative like trading and like stuff like that, algorithm trading, like that's like a whole like there's companies like Jane Street, Two Sigma, Hudson River Trading, like they do stuff like that, and they like want to try to send kids to the companies. And so I think they like I don't know like much about the club, but I'm assuming that they're trying to do something similar, where like using algorithms and like possibly AI or like other like learning models and whatnot to do it. But it sounds like a pretty cool thing. Like I'm not sure like what's happening with it, but you know, hopefully they don't
Yeah.
crack it, because then like the stock market kind of might be moot, because then you get it. But I mean, I guess you can make a lot of money before they find out that you're using that model to trade.
Yeah, actually, like there's a lot of people interest like in Quant SC and also in Case++. Like there's an overlap there, because like Case++ attracts people that are interested in AI, and then Quant SC attracts people that are interested in finances. So there's quite a few people in the intersection of that. But I would say like overall, even though like we both are project-oriented clubs that are in computer science that are both like also interdisciplinary, Case++ really focuses more on the social good aspect. So like for example, we have like a wildfire detections project. We have a machine translation or like language preservation project going on. In the past, we've had like a lot of projects oriented around education and healthcare. So I guess like that's how you can kind of like distinguish them. But occasionally we have like fun finance projects or like this semester, like a project that I'm mentoring is using like live stream chat or like live stream like chat data to try to predict like emoji use, which I think is really like not really social good oriented, but you can kind of go in that direction if you're trying to like analyze like people's reactions to like different streamers. But yeah, so it kind of varies.
No, I think that's definitely the point of like the Center for Artificial Intelligence in Society. I'm gonna literally want to talk about that like in just a second, because I think that's like probably the most important thing. Because AI, it's useful and whatnot, and like we've kind of seen everything, but like why is the focus on like social good? Why can't we just like build an AI to like do our homework or something like that, or be very selfish with it? Like what's the need for social good?
The need for social good, man, that is a heated topic. So I feel like, okay, it's not just in artificial intelligence research. I think in general, there is a pretty large movement in tech to just make it more ethical. For a long time, like tech companies kind of just get away with what they want because people don't understand what they're doing. But sorry if you have to cut that out. But yeah, I mean, the need for social good is because a lot of the technology that we're using can be, depending on who is using it, can be used for, I would say, destructive purposes. Like you could use it to exploit like minoritized populations. You could use it to like say exploit the stock market or exploit the economy. In some ways, like for example, there's been like a lot of I'm not going to name any companies, but there are some companies that are aiding like militaristic efforts, which depending on where like your stance, you could see as good or bad. So essentially, thinking about social good and thinking about how these tools can be regulated is really important. And I think that places like the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Society CAIS are really interested in kind of promoting this idea that AI can be used as a research tool first and foremost, not as a tool to promote fear or to exclude others. And yeah, I think that's what makes like both our like student organization and the actual research center interesting and why people are really attracted to it, because it's not just an AI research center. There's an explicit emphasis on making sure AI is used in an interdisciplinary way for the benefit of society, almost like altruistically.
Wow, that's like probably like the best like pitch for like social good, like ethics, morals. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, and I also do want to like point out, because this like I guess we're just talking about like people that do AI on the undergraduate level. Like there's a lot of clubs at USC that are interested in like the intersection of AI and ethics. Like there's AI safety, there's
I've heard about that one.
effective altruism. Like there's a lot of like clubs, like people interested at least at USC about how we can I guess regulate tech in a sustainable way for like society so that it's not like used to create harm. But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And even to see like that's such a big topic, there's other orgs popping up too. Yeah, if you're interested in the topic, like there's definitely like space to spread out and visit that and like learn about that. Speaking of which, there will be even more like physical space to spread out once the new CS building is built.
I think, Cameron, with how the building is going, I don't think either of us will be able to see it at its full glory.
Oh yeah, no, you're not seeing it anytime soon. So just for reference, it's like completely off topic. Like I live right off campus, and like I look outside my window, I can see Viterbi, and I can see the hole in the ground. Well, it's not a hole in the ground, Miller. There's like concrete and like
There's some holes.
it's like 4 stories worth of like steel and metal. Like it's pretty tall actually. But brand new computer science building, like the Allen and Charlotte Ginsberg Human Centered Computation Hall. I feel like I'm like reading off a script, but I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's like huge. I think it has like an underground garden or something. Like, don't quote me, but like it's just from the renders. It's like super sick building. They're gonna have like a bunch of stuff, and I'm assuming the classroom will be really cool. And the CS department finally gets an upgrade from our building. Hip hip hooray. But once that gets started, you'll be able to like have study rooms and conferences, and like your classes will be in like the nice lecture halls. And I'm assuming there's gonna be space for like the clubs to meet, like CAIS when they teach their curriculum and work on projects, and physically be able to space out and explore things as well as in person.
Yes, there are definitely active efforts in our club to secure potential space for our student organization. Because currently we're located in Levy and we have like our servers there and like other materials. So I think we're trying to secure at least a closet in the building to store all of our things.
I feel like there'll be more than enough space because it's like pretty tall. It's like already 4 stories, which is a lot. And it's like pretty, it's got also like levels to it too. And like one of the renderings has like a video for like one of like the robotic labs, I think. I think it's like they always show the picture of like the human looking robots. And of course that looks cool, but like they show like a picture of like a brain themed PC server. Like that would be really cool to show like AI. But yeah, hopefully that'd be nice to get some server space because Levy's cool, but let's have our own building and our own space.
Yes.
But okay, enough about the new CS building. As like nice as it is, and as nice as it would be, back to actually CAIS. We're talking about social good and web. I think that's really important. In fact, I remember thinking about like social good, social impact, and I wanted to talk about Black Mirror. Have you watched Black Mirror?
I have. I really like that show. I think the first episode is bad, but after that, it's great.
Okay, so funny story. And there's a lesson in this quick story. I was watching Black Mirror, and like I remember I was on a flight somewhere, and I watched Black Mirror, and I watched the first episode, and I never watched another episode again. And I wrote in my USC application that I watched Black Mirror, and I hadn't watched Black Mirror, and so I'm sitting in the scholarship interview, and someone asked me about Black Mirror, but I hadn't watched the show. And they asked me like, well, what is the synopsis of Black Mirror? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I was like,
did you actually say that?
No, I came up with a good idea. Because like I had heard about the show. So, but like I basically said, which is the key of the show. Like I was able to come up with something on the spot because you just got to think really quick like that, snap my finger. But basically like it's just about the whole idea of like engineers like have the hand of creation to create the future. But a lot of times they only think about what can they do and not what should they do. And so I from what I've heard and read, like Black Mirror is the world in which the engineers kind of built whatever they wanted to build, and no one really cared, and the society is dystopian.
That's a pretty good synopsis. Also, I'm just going to plug it. So I was very fortunate. When I started watching Black Mirror, I didn't watch the first episode first. I started like on the new season. So I started with like Nosedive, which is one of the best episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's one of the best. I was very lucky. So I started watching. I was like, this is really good. So then I like finished the season, and I think it's either season 2 or season 3, and then I went backwards. And I ran into that episode and I was like, what is this? Like, but what I do have to say is if you do ever return to Black Mirror, at least watch like Nosedive. That one's like a really good one. I think it like, I think it's more applicable, and that's about like social media. So like, I think everyone like uses social media nowadays, and like, I don't know. I liked Black Mirror. There's an episode with Miley Cyrus. Like, who doesn't like Miley Cyrus?
Oh my gosh, yes. What's her name? Ashley O. Like that's her name in the show.
See, how do you know so much about this show if you've never seen it?
Well, okay, so the context, the finish of the story is that then, of course, I finished watching the rest of the episodes after I realized, like, you probably should watch the show that you claim that you like, and I watched the episodes. And I love the show. It's great. It's excellent. So the pitch is for people out there to watch it, not for me because I have watched it. But it's a really good show. Yeah, I liked her. In it. Although what I will say is that like the recent episodes, I mean, we're getting like so off topic. The recent seasons, like the last season with only 3 episodes, they had happy endings. Black Mirror doesn't usually have happy endings. And all of seasons 1 through 4, there's not happy endings. In season 5, all 3 stories had a happy ending, which is very weird.
Yeah, I would say season like 3 and 4, or wait, the there's the one with also like White Bear,
Oh
the White
yeah,
Bear, the memory one where it's like he thinks the dog. I'm not gonna spoil it, but like you know what I'm talking about. Like
yeah.
his daughter's not who he thinks she is.
Hmm.
That one was pretty good. Not White Bear.
Yeah.
That's not White Bear. There's White Christmas and White Bear. There's also there's a lot of them.
There's Black Museum, which is really, I don't know why the colors like White Bear, Black Museum, White Christmas. I don't know why the colors are like that. Oh, there's one where like this is, I feel like this is actually really applicable to like AI today. Like there's like been talks about how like, oh, you can like
Yes.
clone. So basically it's like you can like, if for example like the AI today, and I was like, oh, like you can use Google to, call someplace, right? But then I think Samsung came with these like, oh, like we'll just record a bunch of sounds of your voice talking, and we can train the model to make it sound like you're talking. And in the mirror or in the Black Mirror, there's the whole thing where they basically like copy the entire person and like the
Yeah,
personality in their brain, like put
her
it into
boyfriend's a
a,
clone.
yeah, they put it into a clone. And it wasn't quite the same. It's like it's down the uncanny valley, which is like a whole psychology thing. But then like the fact that like it looks like a, like it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It is a duck. I'm like, well, this looks like the person who isn't here, and it sounds like them, and it kind of acts like them. It's like, but you just know it's not quite them, and like it's a whole moral philosophical thing. But like it's really interesting that like that's something we're kind of seeing the start of now, and like that was in Black Mirror.
Yes, there have been a lot of controversy and scandals with deep fakes of people. And not just like, there's like two things. There's like deep fakes of people, which can be very problematic and be used to like promote terror. But then there's also like stealing, like stealing art, which is like a huge thing that's happening right now, at least on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. It is a big thing.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad that it's such a big controversy because I think it would bother me more if people didn't care at all. If this is what's getting people to talk about like tech regulation, then so be it. Like if like I guess people like being upset that their art's getting stolen, like I think overall, even though like it's not great that art is getting stolen, it is a net positive in terms of like starting a conversation about tech regulation.
No, exactly. And actually, that's something I want to talk about too. Like, there have been so many things in the news about, AI. Like, obviously, ChatGPT, we can't get away from it. Like deep fakes, like, and like even though the LensaAI, where you can like take the pictures of it, and like you're able to, or like the Dolly Mini. And it's like I'm curious, like, what have you heard as far as like, maybe like have you like the professors and the researchers who like work with you guys in CAIS, or like other like people interested in AI and like the CAIS plus plus, like what are people talking about this? What do people like think about these these developments? They're like reaching people who don't quite know as much about AI as you guys know.
I think there are kind of like a couple reactions and like things like ChatGPT happen. There's kind of like oh my gosh, this is super cool, I want to use it. And then there's also kind of, I guess, this tendency to be like, oh, and all these people that are like talking about AI now don't know anything about it. And like they're not valid. And I think like I would say those are kind of like the two reactions to people reacting to other people talking about AI. And I think that the latter is obviously very unfortunate. I think that in general, like it's kind of like the whole I liked it before it was popular kind of movement. I think that kind of happens when people like react to other, like when AI reaches mainstream. But in general, I mean, I think overwhelmingly most like big advancements, things like ChatGPT are positive. And I would say the real concern only happens when people use it, like you utilize that technology for a net negative. Like, for example, there was a company that was using artificial intelligence or deep learning to manipulate the photos of models. So the idea is that, we can take this model of this ethnicity and then use this like artificial intelligence to transform, like to make all their pictures and videos look like this ethnicity. So there's no need to hire people of like we don't have to hire models of diversity. And like that I would say is a net negative. And
Agree.
And it's like there's a lot of issues with that because like there's huge issues with like models of color not being able to get hired. And so like, for example, like a lot of people in my club were like, that's horrible. Like we obviously don't stand for that. So there's kind of like a fine line between like really liking and really not liking. Because like if they had like used that technology to say like transform the models into like animation looking characters, we would probably think that's really cool and like try to film ourselves doing it, right? Like that's the fine line there. So yeah, I mean, also like my organization is concerned about using artificial intelligence for good. So it's like if the application is not great, then they're not going to like it. But if it's like could be fun, like fun to play around with, I think people are more overall positive. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're always answering the question, like, and that's like very true because like I'm glad to hear the perspective of other people who are like more knowledgeable about it because I think that happens a lot of engineering. Like when people like it happens to so much, it happens to other industries too. It's like people are like, I'm so scared to get on the plane. Like, what if it crashes? And I'm like, you do know that like the plane like crash like safety rate and whatnot like is a lot safer than like getting in your car. And like everyone in LA gets in a car and like it's not the most safe thing in the world, but people are scared to get on planes. And I'm like, do you know what goes into getting a plane? In a plane? Like, are you 100% certain that the plane is less safe than the car? It's like things like that. And like people are talking about like, oh, I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, like maybe read up about it or like learn a little bit about something, at least to make an educated, like if you're going to make a blasphemous loud opinion, make it a little educated, so I certainly get it on that aspect. But I wanted to talk back about CAIS because we've been on the whole thing talking about the CS building and like ChatGPT and everything, which are important topics to talk about, of course. And they kind of stems from coming into the club. Now, I know that you talked, I kind of have a couple of things as far as like membership and who can, who's joining, who's interested. Like, for example, like someone like me, when I came into computer science, I really didn't have any experience. I hadn't coded before. I didn't quite know a lot. Is CAIS open to those who like, are computer science people who are maybe freshmen or just taking their first CS class in CS 103? Is it open to them?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I myself, I didn't really know how to code. I hadn't had taken 103 when I got accepted into CAIS++. So the rule of thumb that we use, because we try to like contextualize each like applicant, kind of like how USC does. Like we take into like a lot of factors. We're not like, oh, this person like didn't get an A in this class and like doesn't do anything else, like reject. We're not like that. We're like, okay, what major is this person? What grade is this person? Look at their essays. We like really make like really, I guess for freshmen and sophomores, we're not like you could come in without knowing how to code. Like that's not super important because we are confident enough in our curriculum to teach those individuals. And we also really only let in those kinds of individuals who are really passionate about learning the tools and applying set tools. Because really, like if you're passionate and driven about it, it comes really easy to you most of the time. But for our juniors and seniors, we do expect some prior AI knowledge. Like a lot of the times, juniors and seniors have the opportunity to take classes in AI. They also have like just a longer time to like, get involved in research and just maybe work at a company. Like we just expect them a lot to have more knowledge, but we're not like you can be a junior, do some like very small AI projects, take 360 and still be eligible. Like, we're not looking for you to be like some sort of AI god. So yeah, it's, I guess like there's kind of like a bad reputation around campus about CAIS being really competitive. And most of the CS, like, I guess my response to that is most of CS organizations are. We are just very, like, looking for very specific kinds of things, like explicit interest, like, and like really like making sure that this is what you want to be a part of. Because a lot of our members are very committed to the organization. Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah. And it's good to know, you can like get involved early, if you really have the interest, because like there's people who are like, this is my passion, but like, maybe their high school doesn't have APCS and like they've tried learning online, but like it just doesn't quite fit. They need like some help because they're, the only person I know interested in AI. So it's good to know that like, if you're someone like that, who's like, hey, like I'm really interested in this, but like, I want to get involved. Like, this is like my passion. Like I can see myself doing it. Like you do have a home at CAIS, you can apply and you can, gain access to it and still, and like, even then beyond that, like the open curriculum, I feel like is pretty cool too. You can, it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to do it. Like CAIS's open curriculum, it's there. So
yeah, it's
really cool. And as you said before, just clarify, you don't have to be a CS major, right?
I wasn't a CS major. I was biomedical engineering. I changed because of CAIS.
Spoken by Madam President. No, you don't need to be a CS major. That's very good.
Yeah, no, we're open to all majors and backgrounds. We're interested in people that are interested in the work that we do.
That's a good way to put it. Good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so I guess like my last thing I want to know is just as far as things you've taken away, like what's something, you like, I have a couple last questions actually. What's something like the biggest thing you've taken away, like being involved in CAIS so far?
Biggest takeaways. Um, biggest takeaways. I think the biggest thing that I guess I really discovered both my passions and like things I'm good at and my weaknesses. So I guess we should start off with like things like, I guess, my weaknesses. So I guess I'm technically the co-president of CAIS. I have another co-president with me, helping me lead the organization. And essentially what happened after the pandemic is the organization kind of, I guess, like many student organizations, took like a downfall where there was like less attendance, and a lot of like my year had to rebuild many of these computer science organizations. And so I think in general, that experience of rebuilding an organization as complicated as CAIS++, like we have so many initiatives, lots of moving parts, connections, etc., was probably one of the hardest things I've done in undergrad. Like just being able to reach out to professors, getting people to be as interested in the organization that I'm interested in, recruitment, all of that. And I think that one of like my biggest weak points, I thought, was like, I guess, organization and communication. Like that was something that was kind of like thrown into. At the time I was, I guess, not at the time, like about a year ago, as still like a little sophomore/junior. And I realized like my weaknesses were kind of like, I wasn't used to communicating to a wide variety of audience. Like you have to be able to communicate to researchers and also communicate to students, and like how you do that, very different. And I guess managing the organization at that large of a scale was something that I had to definitely grow in. And so I think but I guess like moving on to something that I found that I was very passionate about through CAIS is research. And I realized, even though like my research is based in like population genetics, I can be, as long as I'm interested in the question, I can like do a research project. I'm really interested in like understanding how what you can learn from data. I think that's kind of what I found from working in CAIS++. Like I've worked in a lot of non-genetics projects through my time, and I've found them all interesting in their own ways. I think a lot of the times I'm just really interested in making the computer do a lot of work and watching it go burr. So, yeah. But in general, I think like the main takeaway with CAIS, and what I hope like people listening to this will take, is, if you're interested in something, like interested in, say, learning about artificial intelligence or applying it or applying technology to this sort of problem, you can do it. I was like, honestly, by all means, like probably not qualified even to get into CAIS. I was like biomedical engineer, didn't really know how to code. And after like 3 years of hard work, now I'm leading this sort of organization on a large scale. So sorry, that was like a big ramble to say that if you are interested in it, you can do it. Like, as cheesy as it sounds, you just have to like have like the interest and drive to do it. Yeah, sorry, that was like a lot of different takeaways, but
that was the perfect one. I think you kind of encapsulate the point I want to emphasize about, what would you tell, anyone out there listening about AI? But you said it perfectly. If you're interested, like you can do it, and it doesn't matter where you start, because, no matter what, you can still learn and grow and develop and eventually pursue that passion, regardless of, where you started from, your level of knowledge and everything. So I feel like that's a perfect way to end it. But Jordan, thank you so much for talking to me, and just really, this was just so great to like hear and understand. I think your personal story about like being interested in AI was really cool, and then just like understanding like the resources and just the amazing club that is CAIS is so cool to go. So thank you for joining me. And welcome back, guys. Thanks for talking with me and Jordan for a little bit and just hearing all about the cool stuff that CAIS++ has done. Some of the cool projects they've done in the past. Definitely hope that you maybe heard something that kind of piqued your interest and thought like, oh, wow, I might actually want to do that when I come to Viterbi.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think CAIS++ is a great way to get involved and do some other stuff. It's important to know that there's some really great research going on in artificial intelligence. I mean, a recent news article just talked about how Professor Delkina, who runs the Center for Artificial Intelligence Society, talks a lot about the most trafficked wild mammal, which is a pangolin, and how there's been some really great work with AI on trying to stop that type of trafficking and preserving different types of animals related to poaching and different types of other uses, which is really, really cool stuff. And they do some significant work worldwide on a lot of projects, but that's just the most recent one. Is there anything else we need to talk about this week? I don't think there is.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Well, let's get out of everybody's ears for a little bit, give you a break, and we'll be back next week with a whole other episode here of Viterbi Voices.